All right, get ready, because today we're diving into a story that's really going to kind of pull at your heartstrings. I mean, just picture this. Elon Musk driving his Cybertruck in LA, and he spots this young homeless girl, Sophie.
Yeah.
Now I know what you're thinking. Another handout, right?
Yeah.
Billionaire just throwing money at a problem. But
Yeah.
this is where it gets really interesting.
It does, yeah. What's really incredible about this is that he actually stops, he gets out of the car, and actually takes the time to listen to her story.
Right. And you find out that this girl, she's been through so much. I mean, lost her mom to an illness, evicted, forced to live on the streets, but still she has this like incredible love for math and this dream of becoming an engineer.
It really is kind of amazing, isn't it? Like, even in the face of all that she's going through, she's still clinging to that hope for the future.
I mean, you can just imagine her clutching Elon's jacket there, telling him about her life before everything fell apart.
Yeah, and I mean, you can almost feel the kind of the weight of that silence, you know?
Yeah.
After that initial encounter, when the story first broke, there's all this speculation. Nobody really knew what had happened. It was like, oh, what's Elon going to do? Is he just going to, write a check? Or is there something more to this?
Well, and the picture, of course, went viral right away. It's like
Yeah.
late at night in LA, this kind of futuristic Cybertruck pulls up next to this, young girl, and people start gathering, and phones come out. It's Elon Musk, right? I mean, this is the guy launching rockets, revolutionizing cars. And there he is, sitting on the sidewalk, having this heartfelt conversation with this girl.
It's such a powerful image.
Yeah.
The stark contrast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got, his world and her circumstances. It just totally captures how unexpected that whole encounter was.
Right. But what actually happened in that conversation, I mean, we actually got our hands on some firsthand accounts, and it's really incredibly moving. I mean, she
Yeah.
tells Elon about her mom, how hard she worked, about their eviction, and just the struggle to survive on her own.
There's this one detail that really stood out to me when I was reading those accounts. When Elon asked Sophie about school, she just kind of lit up, talking about how much she loved math, how she wanted to be an engineer. But then her voice just kind of dropped and she said, it's hard to hold on to those dreams when you're just trying to stay warm and safe.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine the resilience of this young girl?
It really is just heartbreaking, but it also highlights the power of hope, right? The fact that even in the face of all that, he's still holding on to those dreams.
Yeah. And for Elon, it seems like that spark of hope, that's what really got him thinking. I mean, instead of just offering some temporary fix, he starts envisioning something bigger, more impactful. He takes her to a cafe, gets her a warm meal to keep talking. And it's right there in that cafe that the seeds of this Haven project are sown.
It's amazing, right? Just think about it. If you were Elon, sitting across from her, hearing her story, what would you do? Because what he did next is something else entirely.
He really seemed to get that Sophie's situation wasn't unique.
Yeah.
There are so many people out there facing these same struggles, and often they're just invisible, especially in a world that's so focused on progress and all this fancy technology. So he decides, you know what? I'm going to use my resources, my platform to actually make a difference.
So for the next week, everyone is just buzzing right. I mean, what's Elon up to? Is it a new Tesla, another SpaceX announcement, and then boom, he holds this press conference and it has nothing to do with cars or rockets.
Yeah. And then he shifts the spotlight onto Sophie, of course, with her permission, and unveils the Haven project. It was this bold, unexpected move that just sent shockwaves through the media.
It's like everyone gasped, right? Because here he is laying out this vision of using Tesla and SpaceX technology to create these sustainable mobile homes for the homeless. Not just shelters, but these high-tech, life-changing units.
It was brilliant, really. Not only is he addressing this, huge social issue, but he's also leveraging all this cutting-edge technology in a way that nobody really expected. And it just captured people's imaginations.
And he doesn't mess around. Within weeks, they have a prototype, this sleek, modern pod. Now, it's got insulated walls, temperature control, a fold-out bed, a little kitchenette, even a Wi-Fi hotspot. I mean, it's not just a shelter. It's like a launching pad for a new life.
And, there's always that question of sustainability with these kinds of big projects, right? But the Haven pods were designed with solar panels, so they're self-sufficient. They're reducing their environmental impact.
Yeah. It's really incredible, this fusion of technology and social responsibility. That's what makes the Haven Project so groundbreaking. And it all goes back to that one encounter.
And imagine what that must have been like for Sophie. I mean, just a week before, she was struggling to survive, invisible. And now she's at the forefront of this movement. It's a real testament to the power of one person believing in another.
Yeah, and the media reaction was amazing too, right? It wasn't just the usual tech blogs and news outlets. Everyone was talking about this. I mean, architects were breaking down the design, social workers were discussing the potential impact. It was like this global conversation.
It really seemed like Elon had tapped into something deeper than just, cool technology.
Yeah.
It was like this collective yearning for real solutions, for hope, for a world where innovation is used to address these huge challenges.
Yeah, it's like he reminded everyone that technology, even though it can be really complex, it's ultimately a tool, right?
Hmm.
And it can be harnessed for good. And that message resonated way beyond just like the tech world.
And that's just the beginning of this incredible story. Welcome back. So last time we were talking about Elon Musk and the Haven Project and how he's going to use all this Tesla and SpaceX tech to create these mobile homes for people experiencing homelessness.
And it sounds amazing, but how did he actually pull it off? It couldn't have just been about, throwing money at the problem.
Yep. Oh, definitely not. I mean, the design of the pods themselves is incredible.
Yeah.
It's clear that they put a lot of thought into the actual needs of the people who'd be living in them.
Right, because it's more than just putting a roof over someone's head, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's about creating a space where they can actually, feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah. And we talked about those insulated walls before.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about keeping the temperature stable. It's about creating this sense of security and stability,
Yeah.
like no matter what's going on outside.
And the fact that they're mobile is huge too, right? Like, imagine you're living in one of these pods and then a job opportunity pops up in another city. You're not stuck. You can actually, pack up and go.
Yeah, for sure. Traditional housing can be so limiting, and that could be a huge barrier for people trying to get back on their feet.
And then there's the tech side of things. I mean, these pods come with Wi-Fi, so residents can apply for jobs, access educational resources, even stay connected with friends and family.
Right. It's not just about the physical space. It's about giving people the tools they need to actually thrive.
Yeah, it's like this whole ecosystem of support built right in.
It really is. And it's all designed to break down those systemic barriers that often keep people trapped in these cycles of poverty and homelessness.
Yeah,
And then you've got Sophie, right?
yeah.
The girl who inspired this whole thing. Imagine her story, her voice being used to advocate for this incredible solution.
And it's amazing how much she changed, too.
Right.
You go back and look at that picture of her huddled in Elon's jacket, looking so lost. And now she's this confident young woman sharing her story with the world, inspiring others.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
It's about seeing the humanity in each other.
So it all sounds great, but I mean, did it actually work? Did the Haven Project actually make a difference in people's lives?
Well, all the data that's come out suggests a resounding yes.
Hmm.
We've got reports from tons of organizations tracking the progress of the people who moved into these Haven pods,
Yeah.
and the results are pretty amazing.
I bet there are some pretty incredible personal stories in those reports.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There's one about a single mom who was really struggling to take care of her kids.
Mm.
When she had the stability of the Haven pod, she was able to get a job at a local grocery store and actually provide a stable home for her family.
That's awesome.
And then there's another one about this young artist, super talented, but he'd been homeless for years, struggling with addiction. And the Haven pod gave him the space to heal, reconnect with his art, and actually find his way back to a life that had meaning. He's even selling his work at a local gallery now.
Wow.
It's like these pods gave people a foundation to rebuild their lives on.
Yeah.
And there are so many more stories like that. A veteran with PTSD who found a community in the Haven Pod Network. An elderly woman who'd lost everything in a fire finally had a place to call home again.
Yeah.
And these aren't just, isolated cases. It's a pattern of positive change.
It really is incredible to see how something like technology, when it's combined with compassion, can have such a powerful impact.
And it's important to remember that they weren't trying to, force a one-size-fits-all solution. They recognized that homelessness is this incredibly complex issue, so they tailored their approach to each community.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you have to be flexible and adapt to different situations.
Right. And the Haven Project's impact, it actually went way beyond just the people living in the pods.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, as the success stories started coming out, more and more people were inspired by the project.
Yeah.
Donations poured in, volunteers signed up left and right, and even other tech companies started exploring ways to get involved. It really sparked a movement.
It's amazing how one initiative can, completely change the way people think about an issue.
Right. It wasn't just about the technology. It was about this shift in perspective. Homelessness went from being seen as this, unsolvable problem to a challenge that we could actually tackle through innovation and collaboration.
It's like Elon Musk was saying, hey, even though I'm the rocket guy, we can use technology to solve human problems.
Exactly. And there's actually a really interesting twist to all of this. Even though the Haven Project had all this positive impact, it still had its critics.
Really? What were they saying? Were they worried about the pods being sustainable long term? Or whether they were actually addressing the root causes of homelessness?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about next.
Welcome back. We've been talking about this incredible Haven project, and it's been really inspiring to see how it's helped so many people.
Right.
But I'm curious, not everyone was on board with this project, right?
Yeah, you're right. There were definitely some critics. Some people argued that even though the pods were amazing and innovative, they were still just a Band-Aid, right?
Right, because you're not really solving the problem, right? You're just giving people a place to stay. But what about the poverty, the lack of affordable housing, the mental health issues?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
they were worried about, what happens long term. Are the pods sustainable? Are they going to end up becoming these isolated communities instead of being integrated into neighborhoods?
So it sounds like they weren't against the idea of the Haven Project itself, but they just wanted people to think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. They were pushing for a more comprehensive approach, one that went beyond just, a technological fix.
So how did Elon Musk and the Haven Project team respond to all this criticism?
Well, to Elon's credit, he didn't try to avoid the tough questions. He actually admitted that the Haven pods weren't the be-all, end-all solution.
I see. So he was open to the idea that there needed to be other solutions too, right?
Exactly. And the Haven project actually evolved over time to incorporate some of the feedback they were getting. They partnered with social workers and community organizations to make sure the pods were integrated into the existing support systems.
So they were really trying to create these connections between people and the resources they needed, right?
Yeah, that's right. And you know who was a big part of that?
Sophie.
Sophie. She became a huge advocate for making sure that the project wasn't just about shelter, but about addressing all the other needs that people have, emotional, educational,
Well,
social.
it's her story, right?
Right.
She's the one who lived it, so her perspective is so valuable.
Absolutely. And it's a good reminder for all of us that sometimes the best solutions come from listening to the people who are actually experiencing the problem.
As we've been talking about the Haven Project, I've been thinking a lot about what we can learn from all of this.
Yeah, me too.
What can we as individuals take away from this whole story?
I think there are a few things. First, I think it shows us that anyone can be an innovator. Right. I mean, Elon Musk is known for rockets and electric cars, right?
Yeah.
But he used his skills to address this really important social issue.
So it's like, it doesn't matter what your background is, right? You can still make a difference.
Exactly. And second, I think the Haven Project really highlights the importance of empathy and human connection. I mean, think about it. If Elon hadn't stopped to listen to Sophie's story, none of this would have happened.
Right. He saw her as a person, not just a problem to be solved. And that made all the difference.
And lastly, I think it teaches us to embrace complexity. There was no easy fix for homelessness, right?
Yeah.
The Haven Project faced criticism, it had to adapt, and it's still evolving. It's a reminder that the big problems in the world don't have simple solutions.
So it's really a message of hope, right? Like, even when things seem impossible, we can make progress if we're willing to be creative and work together.
I love that. The Haven Project had its ups and downs, but it ultimately shows what we can achieve when we combine innovation with empathy and collaboration.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Haven Project, I have one final thought. What small acts of kindness or even innovation can we each bring to our own communities? What spark of hope can we ignite? What connection can we make to help make the world a better place?
Those are amazing questions, and I think the Haven Project proves that even our smallest actions can have a ripple effect. If we act with empathy and a desire to make a difference, we can achieve incredible things together.
And on that note, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the Haven Project. We hope you enjoyed this exploration, and we hope you feel inspired to make a difference in your own way.